just before this one starts, I think it would be a good idea to give a quick explain of where I've been for the last 3 weeks. The answer is busy. So yeah, that's where I've been. Great. Hello, what you all guys here? I was busy, but it should go back to normal from now on. So yeah. So just before this one starts, some of my friends would be shouted out in this. So kill me. Yo, my mind. What's up, bro? Well, there we go. Hope you guys enjoy this video. See you next one.
Statement of Evanor Price, given 12th of February 1993, regarding anomalies of being watched and the death of her co-worker, Dr. Samuel Royal, at the Lindfame Research Station, somewhere in the south of England. Statement begins. I'm not sure when Samuel stopped looking at the sea and started looking through it. I suppose that direction only makes sense in hindsight. At the time, it all felt like progress, like we were finally doing our jobs properly. The Lindsfair station was small, 2 labs, a shared office, and a roof that always seems to be moving whenever the wind came in from the east. We were there to monitor long-term coastal erosion patterns, shifts in the craters, weird behavior in the ocean and the horizon. Boring work, mostly. Important, but slow. Samuel loved it, though. He said the slowness made it honest, whatever that meant. There was only 2 of us assigned to the site, full-time. Me, junior research analyst, data gatherer and reporter, and Samuel, senior observer lead. He had been working coastal systems for nearly 20 years at that point, and had a habit of staring out across the water as if it might eventually blink. The first time I noticed how long he stared at the observer deck. At first it was normal enough. Sunrise readings, sunset readings, external visual confirmations during storms. By then he started staying after the equipment had finished logging, just watching. I asked him about it jokingly once, told him the sea wasn't going anywhere. He laughed at that, but he never did turn his head. He was looking out at the sea still, like he noticed I was there, but never took any mind to what I was saying and what I was doing. Well, maybe he did. I couldn't really tell. He just smiled distantly at that and said that's where I was wrong. I laughed, but he never changed that cold stare from the ocean. The station had a main scope mounted on the desk. Nothing fancy, just powerful enough to track distant shifts along the horizon line. Samuel began recalibrating it daily, then twice daily, then whenever the light changed. He started noting it down in his personal notebook instead of shared logs. At first I assumed it was a habit. All school scientists loved paper. But that's when I saw the book. It was brown looking, rough at the touch it almost seemed. And on the front it had the words "Sky High" written on it in black, thick letters. On the side it had the name Jack. If there was anything else was once written there, it didn't seem like it. It seemed like the owner of the book put his name there to make sure no one would ever steal it. And that's when I realised next to the book there were notes on it, around it, just in the area of the book. Why? I don't remember the notes properly. I only remember a few of them, like, why does it look back longer than it should? Why does the line hold when I expect it to break? Why does it wait? How high does it go? I asked about these notes. Next time I saw him, he told me that the horizon wasn't a boundary, it's a relationship, he said, one we misunderstood. I wish I pushed harder. I wish I reported it. But he was a senior, respected, and most importantly, I didn't know if I really cared. As long as it didn't get in my way. Maybe if I asked him about the book, maybe I asked him why the name Jack was written on it when clearly his name wasn't Jack. Does it matter now, does it? Anyways, things went smoothly for the rest of the day. Well, that was until night came around. The forecast had warned of high winds and limited vision, but nothing unusual for the coast. We secured the deck, locked down anything important, any equipment that seemed to almost blow away, and prepared to ride it out. Around 11:30 p.m., the power flicked. Samuel was already awake by then. He was always during the storm. He said it helped him keep watch. I found him in the observing room, adjusting the scope manually. Sam, I said, it's pitch black up there. He nodded without looking at me. He then said in a weird, unkindly tone, that's when it's clearest. I should have left then. Instead, I stayed curiously. It might be a professional hazard of watching by then, but I stayed. I wanted to know what he was talking about. He adjusted the focus slowly, carefully, like someone defusing a bomb. I then asked again, what are you looking for? He then hesitated and said in a very more slow and hesitant tone, confirmation. The storm intensified, wind howls around the building, rattling the glass. Rain struck the window so hard it sounded solid. Samuel leaned closer to the scope. At that point, I saw grabbed him and gone. The winds were getting stronger and stronger. I didn't know why or how the winds were getting that strong. Last time I checked, it should be a normal windy evening like every other. But I could almost swear there was maybe a hurricane or something, which there shouldn't have been. It's England, for God's sake. But as I turned back to look at Sam, I watched him still looking into the scope, closely looking into it, until he suddenly froze. Not startled, but more fixed, like he had finally found something, or something had finally found him. Do you see it? He whispered, in an uncaring, nonchalant tone, as he stared further and further into the scope. I stepped closer, wanting to know what was happening, but didn't dare look into the scope. I didn't want to. Something about the way he said it made my heart drop. See what? I asked. The way it holds, he said. The way it stays aligned. I touched his shoulders. He flinched just slightly, like he had forgotten he had a body. He then continued to speak. It's not centered on the station, he said. I thought it was. That would have been manageable. At those words, for some reason, my heart seemed to almost tighten. I asked in a more worried tone, Samuel, what centered on the station? And for the first time in that whole day, he finally looked at me. His eyes were wide and bright, alight with something I could only describe as terrible understanding of something. It centered on us, he said, on the act of looking. At that, I tried to grab his shoulders to try to take him away from the scope. Whatever he was looking at, we couldn't be involved in whatever it was. Well, as I tried to pull him away, it was like his body was stuck. Like his whole mass of body was frozen to that step. At that, I ran over, quickly shut down the power to the scope and shut down and killed all the power to the deck, leaving nothing but pitch darkness in the windy and heavy storm. Samuel didn't protest or even argue at this. He just stared at the dark window, slowly breathing. He then said last few words that still chill me to the bone. I think it noticed me first, he said. I told him he was exhausted. That storm did strange things to him. That we were talking in the morning. He nodded at that. He let me lead him back to the quarters. I didn't point out, and I didn't know if he knew, but as we left, the book was now open. That night, I didn't sleep. At dawn, the storm had passed, leaving the sea eerily calm, too calm. The horizon was sharp, unbroken, impossible to clear. Samuel was already back on the desk, like nothing had happened the night before. I found him staring barefoot on the wet boards, scope powered back on, his notebook abandoned at his feet. He hadn't slept. I could tell that by the look in his eyes, by the look in his body. He had been staring at it after I left him. It was obvious. It's closer, he said. It's not physically there, but its attention has been drawn to us. I told him at this point to step back inside. Whatever things he was watching or whatever he thought he was seeing clearly was not good for his health. At this point, I was close enough to calling the police and getting him out of here. At this point, I must have had enough evidence to just get rid of him, make him quit for good. But he didn't respond. He was smiling. I think it understands now, he said. I think it knows where to look. That's when I noticed the additional notes on top of the book that was now closed. It said they were personal: height, distance between eyes, angle of stance, repeated over and over again with slight differences in each of them. I could almost think he was mapping himself as a point of reference for what I still don't know or want to know. I reached out for him, trying to pull him away from whatever he was looking at. He stepped back and picked up the book from the side. Don't, he said, putting out his hand to almost stop me from going even a step closer to him. If it recalibrates or recenters, he said. In that moment, I could almost feel like the wind started to pick up. No. Something started to put pressure on us. And in that moment, the horizon, and this is where I might go down as a mad, someone who went crazy from one random instant. The horizon, it bent, it twisted, it curved and swarmed around like a current or a tornado, swishing into us as the center, almost like we're the eye of a storm, and it was watching down on us. It curled in and braked into us, not visibly, not in any way I could describe with proper detail, but I felt it. A subtle warping, like its attention was turning to us. Samuel looked up in that moment. I could almost see the fear under his deep, dark eyes, where he didn't sleep the night before. I could almost see enjoyment and hints of fear in it. His smile that was once almost unnoticeable became even wider. Oh, he breathed in and said the last few words I can remember. It's big. I don't know what he was talking about or what he saw, but in that moment he stepped forward. There was no dramatic fall, no scream. He just simply walked off the edge, off the deck, like he wasn't there. He dropped the book on the way down. From what I heard, the body and the book were never recovered. Maybe that's a good thing. The sea didn't. The sea didn't react. It just held, like it had eaten nothing.
I can be sure that
Like
this will be the
he
first
was
of
merely
many
just
books
part
that
of
was
the sea
caused by
or
Jake's
part of
or
the sky
Jack's or
at that
Philip or
point,
whatever his true name is books.
and he would just become a
I could be
one
assured of
again.
that. But anyways,
The investigation ruled it an accident. Something about a gas leak due to exhaustion or grief him grieving over something. I can't fully remember. And that he was mild gone bit insane. The station was shut down 6 months later, and I left the coastal research entirely. But sometimes, when I'm outside at night, when the sky is clear and wide, I feel it again. That sense of alignment, being an access rather than a person. When that happens, I don't like looking up because I'm afraid that if I do, it will remember me. I don't think it forgets. Statement ends. I've read the statement twice now. There are words and parts that are almost tried to put in but cut off at certain points. I tried to get in touch with a one Eleanor Prince. Last time I checked, she was in a insane asylum for mental issues after a suicide, which I'm guessing is this. So there was no point trying to get in touch with her. All I know of her right now is that she fears of being watched. Now thinking about it, it does remind me of a book actually. I just remember telling you guys about how I found, given, I'm to say, a few of the statements from them before I started this. One of the statements was a statement of, what do they call it? The Windbreaker, where whatever his name was, encountered vertigo and issues with strong winds in a stadium, where a book that almost matches this one has been seen being used. I do wonder if it's the same one. Except for that, everything else is quite normal. Obviously, the Watcher, or the Eye, was the main culprit of this one, with the help of the vast book. Now I think about it, there is one more thing I forgot to say in the last one as well. Or, well, should mention to you guys now, as it gets important. We don't know when or how this started. Or, well, I don't, anyways. All I know, a year ago when they were exploring the Mind Archives or Institute, they found 3 books. The government have been keeping them and have not really shown us anything about them, just gave us the details. One of them is a book that's related to the end, powers of reanimation of a body part. As for the other two, one was a slaughter one, as the other one is part of the web. The power of the web is the power to control and feel spider webs around them, which seems quite normal and fitting for the name. No, the reason I'm telling you this is because the slaughter one, something strange about it. We do not know if Jill ever tried or found this out. But when we open the slaughter book, at the back page, on the last page, there's a symbol of a deep hole that almost seems to go through the pages. When we tried activating the book and reading it, it seemed to have a weird effect to it. And this is where it worries us. It almost shows off the powers of both fears. Like they've been working together enough for them to almost be connected in a way. When it is activated, the hole seems to almost get even deeper, to almost feel like to be able to bury through the earth, bury through the book. And it shows the effects of both a stranger avatar and the powers of a buried avatar. Two other things no interest for this. One, it does show both their powers, but it has a drawback. It seems to almost damage the book. Every time the buried part of the book is used, it seems to almost cross under the dirt of the lines of the pages, crumble apart, slowly destroying the book each time it's being used, getting weaker and weaker. Another part, the drawbacks on the person that using it are interesting. Sometimes the person would just bleed out of a body part. Other times they've found dirt on their shoes. Sometimes people will attack him if they're around him. It seems they give drawbacks of both the slaughter and the buried at different moments. We do not know if it depends on which ability is used first for the drawbacks, or if they're all every time. From research, 90% chance of drawbacks happening. If that is because the entities are not fully merged or fully together, or if they're just there by force by Philip, or even how Philip or Jack or whoever figured it out and combined them, we do not know. Or if there's even more of them, we cannot understand or even figure that out yet. One thing that we do know, however, is that we are keeping a close eye out for stuff like this. I hope that was a one-off book. I hope it was just merely a project of Jules that he just never mentioned to any of us. I do hope there are not more of those. I think that is everything. For the fears, I will put under the. It will be for the title. It will be 9319. The letters.
Or why
Book
he took the book
vast.
back in the first place,
Location
and
I.
how he
The location
knew it
does
was
seem to
there.
be under the eye, and with her
More I look into
encounter
this,
afterwards or feeling
who I'm going to call
of the
Jake
aftermath,
with Jack, because that is where he's put all
I
his
feel
books
like
anyways.
Eleanor Prince
More I look into
might,
him, more
she
questions
might
that seem to
be
pop up,
marked by this
more
eye
I
now.
want to know. But
It's rare to
anyways,
see that they're still alive. I think she's around her 40s now. I wonder though. I wonder if that is correct. I really do not hope it is the same book from The Windbreaker. Could that could that be another question that I needs to be answered? Is how he got the book back. Statement ends.